With a relentless focus on excellence in healthcare, Pullman Regional Hospital presents the Health Podcast.
Having a baby triggers a series of emotions, ranging from excitement and joy to anxiety and depression. When it comes to the latter, it's important to take those feelings seriously, not just try and tough it out, and seek out help if necessary. Joining us to talk about postpartum depression is Gina Boyd, a licensed clinical social worker at Pullman Family Medicine and Pullman Regional Hospital. And Gina, tell us from the beginning, what is postpartum depression?
Well, the term postpartum depression is really used to encompass any mental health problems that arise, during pregnancy and after childbirth. So it's really kind of a broad umbrella type term. I do like to think about, what is the spectrum? So what's the opposite of what we would think of as, mental illness or not doing well with your pregnancy and childbirth? And kind of the opposite of that is wellness. And the World Health Organization actually provides us a definition of maternal mental health. And they state that it is well-being in which a mother realizes her own abilities, can cope with the normal stresses of life, can work productively and fruitfully, and is able to contribute to her community. So I feel like that can also give us kind of a gauge, right, of what wellness is. And so really how, if we're experiencing a mental health problem, in what of those areas is it making it that we're not feeling well? And then also, we tend to use the term postpartum depression when it comes to women, but current research is also finding that men can experience postpartum depression. And they actually state that in 50% of the cases where women experience postpartum depression, their male partners will also experience some symptoms of depression. So I just think that that's interesting to keep in mind, too, that parenting is really a partnership when that's available. And when one person in the partnership is experiencing struggles, it can impact the other partner as well.
So when it comes to postpartum depression, what are some warning signs?
Well, the warning signs of postpartum depression are actually the common symptoms of depression, feeling sad and crying and being overwhelmed and just in general not feeling, very much joy or involvement. I think the thing that also can kind of be indicative of the postpartum depression experience is that your worries and your fears and your stresses are regards to, how you are as a parent, how you're bonding with your baby. And also there can be a lot of kind of hypervigilance around keeping your baby safe. There's a lot of fears around sudden infant death and how will I, make sure my baby doesn't encounter any danger. And so sometimes there's impulsive thoughts or rumination about bad things happening that we want to try to prevent, and that can be really distressing to a new parent. There's also, for men, their experience may be a little bit different, but they also report, feeling burned out and really tired and having sleep difficulties. Men also tend to experience some irritability and anger at a little bit higher rate than women.
Now, how is this postpartum depression different from so-called regular depression?
Yeah, like we talked about, there is some overlap in the symptoms. Some of the, the more obvious definition is the onset, which, regular depression can impact a person at any point in their life, but postpartum depression really is during pregnancy and the first year after childbirth. Now, there is some mood in the first 2 weeks after having a baby. It's referred to as the baby blues, where your hormones are really fluctuating. And so women will say I'm so happy and I don't know why I'm crying. And that's very normal when you're adjusting to the sleep deprivation and hormone changes with, just the pregnancy hormones switching up. But postpartum depression can merge with that and then last longer. So really it's about mental health problems that start in pregnancy and last throughout the first year after having a baby, or can start, within that first year of having a baby.
So that leads me into my next question. I always thought postpartum only happened after the baby is born. It sounds like that isn't true.
Right, yeah. And that people can get postpartum depression if they've had the loss of a pregnancy, had a miscarriage. Postpartum depression can happen. So anytime during the pregnancy and then within the first year of when the baby's born is typically when the diagnosis of postpartum will be given.
And how long would you say it normally lasts?
Well, they kind of give you that first year time frame, but we do know, women, there's complicated factors, and we'll get into that of what contributes to a woman or a man experiencing postpartum depression. But what we know is the earlier you get help and early intervention is going to shorten the intensity of what you feel and how long you feel it. So there's not really a cut and dry postpartum lasts this long. It's more like the diagnosis is given, and then, hopefully treatment is received early, and then symptoms will start subsiding. So after the first year, say you came in at, your baby was 8 months and they diagnosed you with postpartum depression and they treated you for 6 months, and then your depression was continuing and maybe some of the symptoms started shifting away from, focus on bonding and baby and more about everyday stressors. At that point, they may, start re-diagnosing you with more of a depressive disorder. So it's more about, what are the thoughts and feelings that you're having and what are they about? And if that tends to be regarding your pregnancy and your mothering and your kids primarily, then that may be more related to postpartum.
And you mentioned the factors that contribute in both men and women. What are some examples of those?
Yeah, again, it's sort of the perfect storm, and it's not necessarily predictive. It's more correlated, right? Mm-hmm. But we know that if you have a genetic component, so if you've experienced mental health issues before your childbearing time, also, those social determinants of health that we hear so much about now, do you have access to health care? Do you have stable food supply? Do you have transportation? Those types of social determinants of health can also contribute to the experience of depression and postpartum depression. And then finally, kind of family dynamics too. What was your relationship like with your own family of origin? Was there any abuse or neglect in your history? What's your current family dynamic? Do you have a supportive spouse? Do you live with domestic violence? Are you undergoing really stressful financial situations? So all of those areas kind of can contribute to the postpartum depression experience.
So now that we know some of these signs and factors, when should someone reach out to get help?
Anytime you recognize, when you have that kind of definition of maternal wellness in mind, anytime you recognize that you're not feeling well, and if you're recognizing those symptoms that we talked about of, kind of obsessing about the fears that you have, or, just sadness and crying and lots of worry and fear and shame, definitely reach out. And it may be also that people within your support network are the ones who recognize that you're unwell, because sometimes in that, especially early phase of having an infant, you are just really tired and trying to figure out how to parent this new human being and what they need. And so you can, sort of lose touch with yourself a little bit. And it might be that somebody else in your support network says, hey, I noticed that you're not really engaging with me like you used to. Are you doing okay? Or, gosh, I really see you, kind of irritable. Is there something I can help you with? So somebody else in your support network may say, I think you should talk to your doctor. So anytime you recognize that, talk to your doctor or your children's pediatrician. Anybody who you're having contact with, it's okay to bring that up.
Well, thank you so much for your time and this critical care, Gina. I hope any struggling moms now have the information they need to get help. That was Gina Boyd, clinical social worker at Pullman Family Medicine and Pullman Regional Hospital. Find out more about Pullman Regional as well as more episodes like this at pullmanregional.org. This has been the Health Podcast from Pullman Regional. I'm your host, Caitlin White. We'll see you next time.